Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire here, starting a minute early, trying to get the other settings here. I'm going to try to link to the RotoWire page so I can retweet this, and I'll start getting your questions momentarily. Welcome Instagram, welcome Facebook, welcome Twitter. Looks like we got everybody about right here. All right, let's see if we can get rolling here. Just do one more thing, try to retweet here. All right, I can retweet this right now, and we're good to go. Morning, everybody, as you're coming in. I'll get your questions answered, retweeting that out. Now we are good to start. Okay, so let's go. First question, we got one from Jose. See if I can get that on the screen here. There we go. All right, you got half PPR, one flex spot, Mike Gesicki, Marcus Johnson, Traquan Smith, Devonte Freeman, Nyheim Hines. Wow, Daryl Williams, you got a lot going on. That's a lot going on here. All right, look, Gesicki, the Jets is a phenomenal matchup. If he goes in treated as a tight end, the Jets are a bottom 3 or 4 against a tight end. They put him out wide split. If they treat him as a wide receiver, the Jets are horrible against wide receiver twos. So this is a wheels up matchup for Gesicki. Forget the 0 last week. He had 7 targets. That was an anomaly. He gets targeted, and that's a great thing. Your second one, obviously much tougher. In terms of stability, Traquan Smith's been seeing targets, but they're down 3 linemen this week, so I don't know how much of a offensive semblance they're going to get going here. Freeman, it has Latavius Murray back, which dings him. I actually like Marcus Johnson this week because Houston has been very poor against wide receiver twos. And Tennessee show they could use him last week. There's always risk with the guy. He's been around a few years and he has these occasional pop games, but he can play. And it looks like he's in a position now where he can perform. I do think Houston hangs in this game and they may even play with the lead. So I'm definitely thinking that your best shot here is maybe Marcus Johnson. Nyheim Hines is very risky. He could come up with a massive game, but also Jonathan Taylor's work has been going up and up. They're kind of realizing he's the engine to their offense. And so just the volatility there gets me nervous. So here's what I'll say. Gesicki for sure. Marcus Johnson is your solid floor play. I believe he's a floor play this week. He can get you some ceiling too. If you have to completely swing for the fences because you're down, maybe you're an underdog big, Hines would be that guy because he can get you a 3. He could get you a 20 in this game, but the 3s are way more likely than 20s. All right, got an Instagram question here, and I see a couple of them over here. So Instagram, and again, on Twitter and YouTube, you won't be able to see these questions. Giggler, Gallup or Corey Davis? I've got to say Gallup fairly easily here. Corey Davis is facing the strength of the Miami defense, which is their outside corners. That's where they're best. You attack them in the middle, and Jamison Crowder lives there for the most part. So I think this is a bad matchup for Corey Davis. I think that whether he's against Xavier Howard or Byron Jones, I don't think he has a big chance against either of them. Michael Gallup, however, so obviously Cooper's out, and Kansas City is weakest against wide receiver twos. So that's where he's going to be living. He's their wide receiver too. And so I think it's a great spot for him. The word from Dallas's beat reporter was that Cedric Wilson plays in the slot, so CeeDee Lamb goes to the outside. Lamb's the number 1. I think Gallup's a pretty solid play. Got another Instagram question. You won't be able to see these on Twitter and YouTube. Randy, you're going to be next. Benzie, you've got PPR, Latavius Murray, Jamal Williams, or Adrian Peterson. The tough thing is, how is Coach Harbaugh going to use Latavius Murray? But he did lean on him as his lead guy. Jamal Williams is coming off an injury. He still was questionable. Tells me he's not 100%. Tim Boyle at quarterback. It may be the point now where it could be the DeAndre Swift show so much that Williams could bounce out. Peterson, Houston is not horrible against the run. I'm going to check their run DVOA numbers here. Now, they are still bottom 6, so you can run on them. But you see, Deontay Foreman, at this point, he looks equal to Peterson. Peterson has a better chance of scoring a touchdown than any of them, I think. So Peterson has that. I think I would overall say Latavius Murray is your floor play because the other guys can get you like 1 or 2 points. If you need a 10, 12-point game, Peterson's chance of scoring a touchdown would be better than either of them. Now, the Bears are without Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks. I still say about 70% Murray on this one. And then if you need to just hope maybe a touchdown, maybe even 2 short touchdowns, Peterson's your swing for defense, low score. But if he gets in the red zone and they use him, he could certainly score there. I'm going to leave Williams out because of the injury. All right, we got Randy next. You'll be seeing these on so, yeah, it's going to be tough because if Lamar doesn't play, I'm very concerned about the backup quarterback. But I think this is McSorley, and I actually got to look at that. But I think they're going to have to just try to run the ball all day, and they can do that. And not having Lamar and really hurts them a lot. I don't know that they're going to be able to have the quarterback play just to get him the ball well. He has to get volume, though. He's going to see some volume. So I think Bateman, he's got to see 6 to 8 targets, I would think. They're not going to be high-quality targets, but he should catch some of them. So I don't know how much of a ceiling he has because the passing game is going to be absolutely horrific, but that's going to be the problem. And I actually want to look up something real quick here while we're talking. I'm going to look up I think it's McSorley. I'm going to double-check this for you, and let me just put Lamar Jackson's name in here and see the backup, and I should have known that, but right now I don't, and I'll make sure it's McSorley. All right, just checking in here. Yeah, Tyler Huntley. McSorley's the third. So it's still more the same. Huntley's more of a mobile guy, but I would only use Bateman if I had to, if Lamar is out here. All right. Randy, another one. I'll be the Instagram questions in a minute. Randy, with Kadarius Toney or Gallup. So this one's interesting because with Sterling Shepard out earlier in the season, we saw Kadarius Toney play out of the slot and dominate for 2 games. And then everybody wondered why he fell off the face of the earth when he came back. He was on the outside. And that's not where he right now plays best. So there's a lot of juice for Toney here. Now they are playing the Bucs, but you can attack the Bucs and you can attack them in the slot. And they're really down on corners, and the slot's really a good matchup because the Bucs haven't been getting their passers. They're probably going to blitz Daniel Jones. So I think that's a good matchup. But Michael Gallup, Kansas City struggles against wide receiver 2s. He has the best matchup of the Cowboys receivers right here. And so this game you would expect is going to be high scoring. So I ultimately think Gallup is safer because he's going to be the number 2 guy here. I think Toney has more upside and more downside, though, because we have seen him, like I said, he played on the outside and didn't do well, but was the 2-game sample come out of nowhere. So Gallup is safe and you roll with him. But if you need that 20, 25-point game, you had to take the roll of the dice that Toney's either going to have the low game or shoot that. But they're both good plays this week. All right, Instagram question, meaning you're not going to see these over on Twitter and Facebook. Justin Vince, 3 of 4 running backs, Eckler, Swift, Connor, or Michael Carter. Yeah, tough situation. See, the Pittsburgh, Eckler's playing Pittsburgh, and normally it's not a great matchup, but Pittsburgh's down 3 defenders. And now I know 2 of them are pass defenders, Mika Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden, but TJ Watt's out. But I think overall, they probably already game planned to go heavy screen pass this week. that'd be my guess. The Pirates, offset the Pittsburgh pass rush. And now it's not going to be that big of a deal. The game plan's in place. So I think Eckler is going to have a good week here. Swift is 33 carries last week. Dan Campbell took over the play calling. My guess is that's his identity right now. And so I would think overall that's, we got to keep Swift in there right now, because if that's the way things are going to be, Cleveland up the middle, he can be run on. They're a good run defense, but they were running Swift up the middle a lot. And I think that worked. James Conner, almost impossible to start him. I really hate leaving Michael Carter out, but Michael Carter is dependent on a lot of those dump offs. He's been an excellent player, but I think your other 3 choices are so good and their floors are so high. I think you've got to roll with all 3 of them, and unfortunately, Carter on the side. And if it was... there's really no scenario. If it was PPR, I might give him a little more option than Connor, but James Conner is just getting it done week after week, as Carter is. I got to sit Carter here. All right, let's go back to the Instagram. Go back to the Twitter and YouTube. You'll see these questions on the screen, those who are watching that way. Paul, you've got Mike Williams versus Jeff Wilson for the flex. Right now, the problem with the Chargers is the coaching staff. It's not Mike Williams. Mike Williams is a really good player. They were throwing downfield early in the season. He was tearing it up. And then all of a sudden, the coaching staff went back to the crap they did last year, funneling their offense through a slot receiver with a huge arm quarterback. They are absolutely moronic for doing it. But until we see them go back to stretching defenses and making Justin Herbert a superstar that he really is, right now, Jeff Wilson's a good play. Jacksonville's very good against the run, but the Shanahan run system works, and it's going to work against Jacksonville. There's really no backup. Trey Sermon can't be trusted. So Wilson has to get 14, 18 carries here. And if they're in the red zone, he's shown in the past he can run there. So to me, it's Wilson, just because they don't use Mike Williams correctly. Randy, non-PPR. Again, if you're on Instagram, these questions are on the screen on YouTube and Twitter. Non-PPRs are Adrian Peterson or Kadarius Toney. I'm going to say Kadarius Toney here. I really don't trust Adrian Peterson. He's 36. I think he's washed. I know he can't be in game shape yet. He's still working his way in, and he's been bad the last couple of weeks. They're down an offensive guard this week, which doesn't help. Houston's pretty feisty defense. I know their run numbers aren't great, but ultimately, Kadarius Toney's going to play in the slot because Sterling Shepard's out. So that's the route I'm going. Cedric Wilson has a lower floor than Toney because we don't know how they're going to use him. There are weeks when they do use him, he could do really well. Now, Cedric Wilson's going to play the slot, which means you can see a lot of Tyrann Mathieu. That's a bad matchup. I have to start Wilson in some leagues. I picked him up in when I had Cooper, but I do understand that Tyrann Mathieu is going to be problematic there. So it's Kadarius Toney. All right, let me get back to an Instagram question. You guys won't see this on Twitter and YouTube. Vixta PPR Flex, Ty Johnson or Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman lost the snap share to Byron Pringle last week. It was very quiet, but all of a sudden they kind of flipped roles. And so now Hardman, I assume this is a fundamental change the coaching staff made. I don't think it was game plan specific. So Ty Johnson has that floor. He's going to get you those 4 or 5 targets. He doesn't get a lot of snaps, but he plays when he gets the snaps, and he's productive with them. So I'm going to say Ty Johnson there because Hardman's diminished snap share. And I have another one here on Insta, Deontay Johnson or Mike Williams. Got a bank on the floor. Deontay, he gets 13 targets, like literally 13 targets most weeks. Mike Williams, I talked about a minute ago, until that coaching staff reestablishes the downfield passing attack that made them successful early in the season and not run their offense through a slot receiver, which is completely stupid when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Until they reestablish that, Mike Williams is tough to play. It's got to be Deontay here. All right, let's get back to some Twitter and YouTube questions. Johnny Football, Derek Carr, Justin Fields. Yeah, so Derek Carr, he's facing the Bengals. The Bengals had a really good defensive start to the season. It hasn't gone as well lately, so this isn't a great match. I mean, it isn't a bad matchup anymore. It was a few weeks ago. It was a bad matchup. Not now. Now, Justin Fields, he's run for at least 38 yards in like 4 straight games. And, you know, Baltimore is not the defense they were. They are not a dominant unit right now. And Justin Fields is going to need to run to get it done, but he's been running, and I assume they're going to continue to do that. So overall, I think Fields is your floor play, though. I think he's the guy who's going to get you that 15 points kind of guaranteed. He's been getting it a little bit better done. Touchdown passes, I think 3 of the last 4 games. Derek Carr, you know, they've had 2 massive hits, the Gruden hit and the Ruggs hit. And, you know, they look like they're scuffling a little bit right now. They are at home, which helps. So I'm going to say, though, if you need like a boom bust guy, it's going to be Derek Carr. But I think Justin Fields is your safer play based on the running ability that we've seen now 4 weeks running here. Okay, let's see. We got here. Darsan Patel, CEH or Daryl Williams. You know what? Andy Reid said Edwards-Helaire is starting. Edwards-Helaire was 6.5 yards a carry in the last 2 full games he played. He had like 14 and 17 carries for 100 and 102 yards. He was getting it done. That run blocking, as I said early in the season, would get better with the passing weeks, and it was getting better up to the point where he got injured, and it's still getting better. And if Reid tells me Edwards-Helaire is going to start, I've got to roll with that, and I've got to use him because ultimately they're not close in class, those 2 players. And so CEH has to be the play for me here. See, Insta questions. So you're not going to see this on YouTube and Twitter. Justin Vince, full PPR. Oh, wait. I think we had that one already. Yeah, we had that one already. All right. So you asked Eckler, Swift, Connor, or Carter. We said we'll bench Carter only because the other 3 options are so good. Giggler, Gallup, or Robbie Anderson. I love that Cam Newton's in a quarterback, but we still got to see what's going on there. He's still learning the playbook. Michael Gallup has the best receiving matchup against Kansas City is the wide receiver 2 spot. They're the weakest against them, and that's what Gallup plays. So to me, in a potentially high-scoring game, I got to go that route. Robbie Anderson's a real wild card. He has not had a good season. He did get a touchdown last week with Cam at the helm, but I have to say Michael Gallup in a high-volume game. We know he has a role in that offense. Another Instagram question. You won't see this on the other platforms. Cam Ramos, Renfro, Mooney, or Davis. I assume Corey Davis. Need 2. Corey Davis is a bad matchup because he's on the outside where we have Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, whichever side he's on. Crowder plays the middle. This is a middle passing game. I also worry about Joe Flacco. Flacco doesn't want to get hit anymore, in my opinion, so he's going to get that ball out. Mooney, I don't like Mooney's matchup. He may see a lot of Marlon Humphrey, but I don't know if they're going to shade. I don't know if they're going to shadow him. I don't think they're going to view Mooney as a type of threat where they have to shadow. So I think Mooney still somehow gets it done here. And Renfroe gets it done every week. He gets his 6 to 9 targets, and it's a beautiful floor. So just because of the matchup for Corey Davis and the quarterback downgrade, it is a downgrade. I'm going to say go leave Davis on the bench there. And one more on Insta before I come back to the other platforms. Ricardo Hernandez, DJ Moore or Darren Waller. Oh, man. You know what? I love DJ Moore, and he's a superstar player. He hasn't done anything in 4 weeks, really. I love Cam being in there. I'm not quite sure how Cam's going to be able to gel with DJ Moore. In the meantime, Waller's coming off the bad week, but usually Waller is good, for that 45 to 60 yards, and Moore lately has been more like 25 to 40 yards. And so right now, based on what we have, I think we have to go with Waller. And I don't think Cincinnati is going to be an oppressive matchup for him. Cincinnati, I'm checking against tight ends. They're number 20 against in DVOA against tight ends. So it's a positive matchup for him here. Again, at DJ Moore, we just don't know what we're getting with Cam. And so I think right now we make that point and we say, let's go with Waller. We know what we're getting. We got a floor. DJ Moore, we don't know what that floor is right now, so we make that move. I'll come back to Insta in a bit. Let's get back to Twitter and YouTube. Iron Eddie, here we go. Miles Sanders. So when Miles Sanders was healthy earlier in the season, he was playing on a team that was a pass-first Philly attack. And so he was not used. He had a terrible beginning of the season. Hurts was under the gun like 80%, out of the gun about 80% of the time. Now he's under center quite a bit. Last week was a little bit of an anomaly to that. But they seem to have an identity now where they want to run the ball. And Miles Sanders, to me, in that scenario, is going to be a very good performer there. And I do like him over Corey Davis and Alex Collins. You heard me say a minute ago, Corey Davis is going to face those outside corners, the strength of the Dolphins defense, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones. Don't like that matchup in with Flacco. And Alex Collins has gotten less efficient by the week. The last few weeks, he's getting carries, but not doing much with them. So, I'm going to roll with Sanders here and, coming off the injury, hopefully he's fresh. That would be nice. Don't know how his ankle responds, but he seems well enough to be activated. They had good options. So my guess is they waited, until he was good. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders there. And Shane, and you guys are on Insta. I'll be with your questions in a minute. You can't see these. They're on the screen on YouTube and Twitter. Shane, standard bonus for 100 rushing yards. Howard, AP, Freeman, or Casey's Williams, or do you go Galladay or Gallup in the flex spot? All right. So basically, Adrian Peterson's probably going to split work with Foreman. He hasn't looked very explosive. He always has a chance to score a touchdown if they get in the red zone. He's a great red zone runner. Howard apparently is going to lose work back now, especially with Miles Sanders. But the matchup is awful. The Saints are a beast to run on. They're their best run defense in the league. So that's not a good matchup for Howard, although they've been taking advantage of teams they faced. Freeman, not a bad spot here. Bears are without Akeem Hicks, and they're without Khalil Mack, but Latavius Murray's back in the saddle here. So he was their lead guy, and I don't know that they're not going to go back to him. Daryl Williams, now CEH is back, so Edwards-Helaire is expected to start per Andy Reid. I think Michael Gallup's your play here. Kansas City's weakest against wide receiver twos. The game should be high scoring. And like I said, with Cooper out, that really opens up a door for Michael Gallup, and that's why I recommend him there. Questions back on Insta here. So let's get back here. You won't be able to see these on Twitter and YouTube. Akers, Bob, Dalvin Cook or Nick Chubb. That's a good problem to have. I love that. Man, how do you bench either, right? Dalvin Cook, actually, Green Bay is not great against the run. They're bottom 10 in rush DVOA. So you definitely, and they commit to him. They commit to Cook. And Cook just, he's at that point, you could see he's going to pop really soon. He's getting the opportunities. The big plays just haven't been there. They're coming around the corner. They're at home in this game, which really helps them a lot. I definitely like him. Now, again, sitting either of these guys, right? Good luck. Chubb's playing Detroit. Now, here's my one thing with Nick Chubb, and this is a speculative guess. Last year, when Mayfield was playing horrible, they had a really cake matchup against the run and the pass, and they decided to give Baker Mayfield some confidence. He threw like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Well, this is the matchup they have this week. They have the Detroit Lions, who can't stop the run or the pass, and I know that Donovan Peoples-Jones may not play. He's on the wrong side of questionable, and Anthony Schwartz is out. I still think that they're going to try to get him right, Mayfield right in this game, and they're going to just try to give themselves some hope. As the playoffs are in the future, they assume they're going to make it. So that's my hunch. Dalvin Cook is my choice. if you have a gut feel, go with it because they're both obviously superstar running backs. Another Insta question, so hang on YouTube and Twitter. Cam Ramos, standard scoring. You need a receiver and a flex. Renfro, Mooney, David, CEH. Oh man, David Montgomery. I'm trying to think if I'm screwing something up here. If I'm missing something, you mean David? Maybe you mean Davis. It might mean Corey Davis. Maybe you mistyped it. Let me see. All right. So you know what? CEH was getting 6.5 yards a carry in the last 2 full games before he went down with the knee injury. And they're like a top 2 run blocking offensive line. So I do like CEH here. And then outside of that, Mooney doesn't have a great matchup. I said earlier, he'll get a little bit done. I don't think they'll shadow him with Marlon Humphrey. So I think we're okay there. If it's Corey Davis was your third option, a little bit worried there because he's on the outside against Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. You can attack Miami in the middle better, but that's we're going to have Jamison Crowder. I think Renfro is your solid play. He gets you 6 to 9 targets a week, cashes in. He doesn't have a high ceiling. He's got the end zone twice in a row. So to me, it's CEH and Renfro here. That's what I like there. All right, then we have the Delvin Cook, Nick Chubb. I got that. And Ricardo, you're very welcome. 100% happy to help out. Get back to some Twitter and YouTube questions. Come back to Insta in a minute. All right, Iron Eddie, half PPR. You need 2. Jeff Wilson, Michael Gallup, Shoddy B, Rashadi Bateman, and Michael Pittman Jr. All right, so, Jeff Wilson, look, he's going to be the guy here because they don't trust Trey Sermon. So, you're looking at least 14, maybe 18 to 20 carries for Jeff Wilson. I know Jacksonville's good against the run. They've been really, but San Francisco got that Shanahan run system, and it's going to be successful here. He should get red zone opportunities. So I like Jeff Wilson here. Michael Gallup, I've said it a few times on the show for people that have been in and out. Kansas City is weakest against wide receiver 2s. So he's your great play in a potential high-scoring game. Bateman, Lamar Jackson's apparently sick. Don't know if he's playing. If he plays, it sounds like he's not going to be 100%. Otherwise, I would have loved him with Marquise Brown out. But quarterback issues, we got some issues there. So I don't want to take that risk on. And then Pittman, I love Michael Pittman, but I don't like his matchup at all this week. He's going to see Tre'Davious White a ton. And Tre'Davious White's one of the best lockdown corners in the league. And I don't know that Carson Wentz, is going to be able to get him the ball enough. So to me, it's going to be Jeff Wilson and Gallup. Those are my 2 guys there. Great question as always. John, running backs, you need 2 non-PPR, Gibson, Connor, Robinson, or Dillon. Real hard to sit A.J. Dillon this week. Minnesota's like bottom 5 in run DVOA, and we know the Packers are committed to running the ball. They got a great run blocking line. They're 8th, and they're not 8th. I'm run blocking. No, actually, run blocking is below average as I think about it here. But Dillon's in a great spot. They're going to use their running backs. They always do. They're well schemed up for it. And I got to say that he has a big game. He has a lot of volume here, and so you got to go with him for that reason, I believe. James Robinson is still less than 100%, and that's the reason I'm going to back off. And San Francisco is like top 7 against the run. So I like Robinson. He always seems to come through, but your other options kind of move that away. James Conner doesn't have the best matchup in the world, whereas Seattle's more that pass funnel defense. They're very solid against the run. They're top 11 against the run. Connor will get you something done. I mean, you'll see some light boxes when they put multiple receivers on the field. It's a great chance to score. But ultimately, Gibson looked good last week. He was against Tampa. He wasn't going to get 3 yards a carry because he's playing Tampa, but he got 24 touches somewhere around there. And so to me, after the bye, they feel like they're turning him loose. And so now we got Gibson back and rolling. They're playing Carolina. They're a pass funnel. You can't pass much on them. They're number 2 against the pass, but you can run on them. They're below average. So to me, I'm going to say that. So here's how I want to frame it for you. I want to frame it that Dillon's in. And I'm going to say Connor is your floor play because Connor is almost likely going to score here. But if you want to go a little bit lower on floor, but for higher for ceiling, I see that game coming up for Gibson. So again, Dillon, and then if you want the safe play, you go Connor. If you want to take a little risk for potential lower game, one for smash, then you go with Antonio Gibson. Coming back to some Insta questions. You won't see this on Twitter and YouTube. Let me scroll down, see where I missed here. All right. Distant Gary. Gibson or Pittman, flex half PPR. So as I was saying, I'm worried about the Pittman matchup because Tre'Davious White's going to be on him, and Tre'Davious White's an amazing corner. I like Pittman as a player. I think he's a phenomenal player. But I think Gibson, with the usage he got last week, that tells me they've kind of moved past the injury to his shin, and they're going to give him work. So to me, against a team that's easier to run on in Carolina, I'm going to go with Gibson there. And I think that, he has an equivalent floor to Pittman, but I think he has more ceiling this week. So I like him better in that spot. Another Insta question, so you won't see this on Twitter and YouTube. Aaron Alford, more than you as well. Bateman with the potential of no Lamar or Tony Pollard. Oh, I had this question earlier. That's a good question. Pollard's going to get you at 8 to 11 touches, and he's going to get you a good, solid floor. Now, in this case, though, Bateman, even if Lamar plays and he's not 100%, that's problematic. But Bateman should still see 8 targets there. And to me, if you're going to see 8 targets as opposed to 8 carries for Pollard, I've got to go with the receiver because those catches turn into more yardage or a little more downfield. So I'm going to say Bateman there because even if he has a backup quarterback, he's going to get them targets. It's going to have to work out that way. I don't think they can run the ball all day at Chicago. The Bears, even with the injuries, are definitely decent against the run at home. All right, let's see here. One more Insta question before I come back to the other 2 platforms. Giggler, Gallup, or Robbie Anderson? Got to go Gallup here. He's the number 2 receiver against a defense that struggles against number 2s. Anderson, we have to see how it works with Cam Newton before we go that route. And those who are asking to be in a live video, I apologize up front. I got 3 platforms going, and I just kind of got to plow through this. So thank you for asking, but I can't. Guy or Guy, I'm sorry if I don't know which one it is. Which 3 would I pick? Devonte Smith, Mike Williams, Miles Sanders, Gibson, Higgins, Wilson Jr. Yeah, you got a situation on your hands here. Mike Williams, like I said earlier, I'm very concerned with the inability of the coaching staff to throw downfield anymore. They want to run their offense through a slot receiver for some foolish reason. So Mike Williams has fallen off the face of the earth after a blistering start. So until they fix that right now, if you have other options, which you do, don't advocate him. Devonte Smith, I expect him to see almost full-time work for Marshawn Lattimore. To me, if you get physical with Devonte Smith, he's done, in my opinion. I think that once he gets his hands on Smith, Smith's too weak, too small, and I don't think he can do much with it. And so I don't like him either. Miles Sanders is interesting as he comes back from his injury. It's a different team. When he was on the team earlier in the season, the problem was that they were a pass-first team with Hurts running out of the gun. They became a run team since, so Sanders walks into a much better situation. So I like him. I also like Antonio Gibson. You heard me talk about him a minute ago. They gave him a lot of work last week coming out of the bye. They must be comfortable that his shin is well enough to go. He scored twice. The yardage wasn't there, but they played Tampa. The yardage is never going to be there. Matchup against Carolina is good. They're impossible to pass on, but they're below average against the run. And then always love T. Higgins. T. Higgins, he's getting a lot of targets. It's almost going unreported. He's getting nearly as many targets as Jamar Chase, and it's just they've misconnected in the end zone numerous times. And then you have Jeff Wilson. So of those last 4 options, I'm going to take out Smith and Williams. So basically, I'm going to say T. Higgins is high floor, and if he gets those touchdowns going finally, he has a good ceiling as well. So I like him. And against that pass rush of the Raiders, I think he gets open a lot in the middle area of the field. And then after that, Wilson would normally be a great start, but your other options are very intriguing. And I think Antonio Gibson, it's coming for him because he's getting opportunity and he looked good last week. So I'm going to say Higgins for sure. And then Gibson would be your next play. Wilson's a little riskier. I think Wilson has a lower floor than Gibson, but if you need to shoot for the moon, he could get a couple touchdowns. So it's going to be Higgins and Gibson, but if you got to risk floor for ceiling, then you go Wilson. All right, Aaron, you're very welcome, Aaron Alford, and caught up on Insta, so let's keep going with the questions here on YouTube and Twitter. Johnny, why is Trey Sermon in the doghouse? He was terrific at Ohio State. Shanahan and John Lynch, they made mistakes in the draft. They've identified guys they liked. I remember Joe Williams. I was like, oh, man, Joe Williams going to go in the Shanahan scheme. They just misdiagnosed what he was. Sometimes you're a man against boys in college and you go to the NFL and it's not quite the case. And it just seems that way. I don't think he's in the doghouse. I simply think he can't play. I think he can't play their system. That system is very specific. It's the one cut downhill system. You got to go full speed to a spot, stick your foot in the ground, reverse direction. You got to go against the blocking scheme. And I think that Sermon just can't execute the zone blocking system. Sometimes you think these general managers and coaches, you think they understand players being systems fits. It's not always that way. I don't get it. It shouldn't be that way. It's fairly ridiculous. But that'd be my guess. Sermon can't run the Shanahan system the way they need to, and therefore they can't use him. All right. Jay Red, morning to you as well. She's our Mike Williams or Foreman. Now, it is a different question. So Peterson's going to be involved. And with each passing week, and I don't know how washed he is, he's 36, but with each passing week, he'll be in better football shape. My guess is when he came in a couple of weeks ago, he couldn't have been in football shape, right? He's sitting on the, well, he's not sitting on the couch, but, compared to going to practice every day. So that was my concern with him. But Mike Williams, you've heard me say in this show already that Brandon Staley and his coaching staff are not throwing the ball downfield anymore. They're running through a slot receiver, totally ruining their quarterback, but fine, whatever. Williams is still going to get some targets. Foreman, it's hard for me to trust him right now because if Peterson gets going, Foreman is not good enough to not be pushed aside. My guess is be hot hand there. And I think this game's going to be a little bit crazier than we think. I think the Titans are in for a big letdown spot. They played a lot of huge games in like 4 or 5 straight games, and now they get the Texans. And there's a lot of injuries on the Titan side as well. So I'm going to go with Mike Williams here. And Foreman worries me because, and I know McNichols is out and there may be some passing work for him here. So here, I guess, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go. And here's the other thing Mike Williams that I like. We have no TJ Watt. We have no Joe Hayden and no Minkah Fitzpatrick. 3 of their best defenders are out. And I think this naturally opens up the field a little bit better for the Chargers. Pause due to new poor connection. All right, good. All right. I have another Insta question here, so you won't see this on Twitter and YouTube. Joshua, Hurts or Herbert? That's a good question. That's a good. So I'm just concerned with Hurts against the Saints. The Saints are nasty on defense. Hurts is going to get some rushing yards. He always does, and that gives him a wonderful floor. I just said a minute ago on a different question that you didn't ask, but Jay Red asked that Herbert has an advantage this week because no TJ Watt, no Minkah Fitzpatrick, and no Joe Hayden. To me, this goes from being a bad matchup to now an actually positive matchup. And so I'm going to bet on Justin Herbert here because I think those injuries are going to lessen their pass rush, lessen their coverage, and I think it's going to make it a really good spot for Herbert here. And Herbert's been down 3 of the last 4 weeks. I did fortunately call the 1 week as a bounce back that he did well against Philly. I think it's another good week because of the injuries to the Pittsburgh defense. Great question. Randy, is Rashad Penny worth a pickup or potentially starting? And I think we've talked about him earlier in the year. Right now, he is worth a pickup. Weeks ago, I was skeptical. I still don't think – I think the injuries are taking a toll on him. 100% think the injuries have caught up to him. He's not the player he was. However, he's an Alex Collins injury away from potentially being a starting running back. Don't know what he has in the tank. He's coming off of injury this year. He's been around a few weeks now. Maybe it was a conditioning issue. Maybe he's washed, but he is worth a pickup. I wouldn't start him right now. Arizona's a real tough run defense. So this would not be, the time to run him in a lineup. And Travis Homer's involved a bit, but he is worth a stash. He is worth a stash because things could work out for him. Sean John on Insta, you won't see this question on the other. How about the 49ers? They're coming on really well. Definitely like the way things are going for him right now. Joshua parlays are, actually DraftKings had a bonus 33% profit boost on TD score parlays. And so the 3 players I took, let's see if I can remember. I took Dalvin Cook to score. I took Jeff Wilson to score and A.J. Brown to score, all anytime TDs. So I got a 3-team parlay on those, and it was like a 33% profit boost. And I felt confident about those 3 guys scoring. 49ers will only have Wilson will be their goal line runner. So I like that. And Dalvin Cook, they're playing Green Bay, and he definitely has a good matchup there. And then A.J. Brown against the Texans. I just think A.J. Brown is going to get fed, and even if they get in the red zone, they'll feed him. So I like those for sure. Those are 3 I definitely like. All right, let's see. Ryan, hello, Hawkinson with Tim Boyle. Yeah. So, you guys know me. I love me some Dan Arnold. Talk about him on the Sirius show every week. Love Dan Arnold. He's been producing too. But this is not a great week for Dan Arnold. He's going to see a lot of that 49ers tight end coverage, and it's very good. And so this is not an optimal week. And I know Dan Arnold is a supersized wide receiver. I do get that. And like I say, I love Dan Arnold, right? So, but overall, the 49ers are 7th toughest against the tight end. They have the personnel to really match up well with that. I think Hawkinson has to be the security blanket here. So to me, Cleveland doesn't have the personnel to take him out, I don't think. And so I think Hawkinson does see between 6 and 10 targets here. And so, and Hawkinson's an elite player. So I do think I'm going to go that route here. Dan Arnold in, a lot of games, I'd be saying some Dan Arnold. But I think this is the one week Arnold doesn't really do very well for you. Now watch him get 2 touchdowns, right? He hasn't been scoring. But that's my deal on that. And like I said, I love Dan Arnold. But we're going to go with TJ Hawkinson here. All right, Daffy. Need 2 receivers in a flex pick, 3 out of Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Waddle, Gaskin, and Josh Jacobs. 2 wide receivers and a flex. Okay. So, you know what? Thielen's been getting it done. I mean, we look back, it's at least 40 yards a game, except for one. He had a 6-yard game, but he scored in that game. And he scores in more than half of his games. I think it's just tough to sit him. And Brandon Cooks had 13 targets with Tyrod last week, and it wasn't great. Tyrod played a bad game, but Tyrod was good earlier in the season. And Tennessee is down 3 linebackers, which is middle of the field. And he throws a lot to Cooks in the middle of the field. And I do think, oh, good. Lamar Jackson is out. Thank you. Any of you guys see these players out? Thank you for letting me know this. I'll address that in a second. So we're definitely going Thielen and Cooks. Now, for the third one, you know what? Let's just make it the trio and go with Jalen Waddle because the Jets are so bad against wide receivers. They're 32 in pass DVOA, and Jalen Waddle gets the targets. You know, you need a running. No, you don't need a running back. You're fine there. Josh Jacobs, you know what? I don't necessarily like the matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's above average. They on defense, they're been not great, but above average. And Josh Jacobs, his yards per carry is poor. His yards per reception is poor. He could always get 2 touchdowns. I mean, they get the ball down in the 1, he's going to score, but betting on it's tough to do. And then Gaskin has had a lot of 41 touches in 3 weeks, but he's got 3 yards a carry. Not even 3. I think it's 2.5 yards a carry. So right now, let's just go with the 3 receivers there. Gaskin hasn't been efficient. Jacobs needs the touchdown looks, and we can't guarantee those. So I think that's the route we go. All right. So thank you, Joshua, for letting me. Allen Lazard was doubtful, and he is out. And we said Lamar Jackson's out. So look, the Lamar Jackson being out, it hurts everybody on that entire offense. Their running game is often predicated upon the mobile quarterback. So Latavius Murray, Devonte Freeman, they get downgraded. Their number of trips into the red zone gets downgraded. Now, it helps the Bears are without Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks. That certainly helps. So that's important to understand. But regardless, Rashad Bateman, he's going to get 8 targets. Tyler Huntley's a quarterback. But, is he going to get 40 yards? I don't know. Bears keep everything in front of them. So that on defense, they're very well coached. So there's not going to be big plays to be had there. There's always going to be the coverage buster, this or that. That certainly happens. So that's interesting here. Mark Andrews, he has that great chemistry with his quarterback, Lamar Jackson. With no Lamar, that's very, very problematic. And the Bears against tight ends, I want to check that real quick here. The Bears are top 8 against tight ends. It was a bad matchup to start for Andrews. So now it's even worse without his quarterback there. So this is not very favorable. So I guess it'll be an interesting game here. All right. Jack, Kirk or Bateman at the flex. So I was just saying, Bateman's going to get some targets, but the Bears keep everything underneath. I'm really not confident in Tyler Huntley getting much done with those targets as a quarterback. Christian Kirk, he's been getting it done, and he's getting it done with Colt McCoy at quarterback. And Seattle, they're decent against the run, but they're like bottom 8 in pass DVOA, and they're leaning on Kirk. So I think Kirk's your guy here. Bateman has a bit of a floor, but we don't even know if Huntley could get him the ball, or, if they go to Duvernay a bit more. I don't guess if Duvernay's even active. He was questionable. But I'm going to say Kirk because he's been getting it done. And Johnny, Foreman or Peterson. Flip a coin, right? I think Foreman gets more yardage. I think Peterson has a much better chance of scoring if they get down inside the 5. I think Peterson can score, and that's what you're betting on. If they score, Peterson wins. If they don't score, then Foreman probably wins. It's that close. And, they're playing Houston, so there's a good chance for a touchdown. Gut feel for sure. Very slight nod to Adrian Peterson because I do think they get it down close to the end zone and he's able to score. That's a tough one, man. What I said, yes, 100% was our Cam. Depends on your options, of course. Look, Cam ran for 600 yards almost last year and 12 touchdowns. He was on a terrible team with no receivers, and now he's got DJ Moore. He's got Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield to throw to, Robbie Anderson, and they're playing the Washington football team. I heard the coaches say about him splitting snaps. Seriously, it's not happening. I could be wrong. I don't see it. They're not taking Cam off the field for P.J. Walker. There's no world in my mind. We're like, yeah, this is a better move for our team. Cannot see that. So I think Cam does as usual. He runs for some yardage, but now he has some receivers, especially DJ Moore and McCaffrey, who can run after the catch to pad his passing numbers. So to me, Cam is a very good start today. Love him in DFS, honestly, in tournaments. Love him there. 5,100 on DraftKings. Josh Alou, Trey, Jonathan Taylor for Aaron Jones and A.J. Brown. Aaron Jones had too many down weeks this year. That's been frustrating. The split with Dillon hasn't been good. This is like Jamal Williams days, right? And A.J. Brown, problem is right now, their personnel is so bad behind him that we see the better teams are taking A.J. Brown out. 2 weeks ago, Brown's done like nothing against two good defenses. You know what? I know it's great to get two great players. Man, Jonathan Taylor, they're running that system. All their blockers are healthy now, and he is just kicking tail in that zone running scheme. And to me, Jonathan Taylor's like your league winner. But I mean, you're getting two players, right? It's hard to toss away two players. If you redrafted today, be a first and a second round pick, right? And so that's ultimately your choice. And to me, Taylor's a league winner, but if you're in the fantasy playoffs and Taylor has a bad game, you have a better chance of Jones or Brown having a big game and carrying you. So almost a 2-for-1 there. That would be the I would look at, but it'd be very hard to trade Jonathan Taylor. It's a great question. Johnny Football, 49ers or Bears defense if Jackson's out. The Bears are without Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, so I don't know how much damage their defense does. The pass rushers suck because they were great. Quinn was fine. Of course, that's when you have Khalil Mack lined up and Akeem Hicks, right? But they're not there. He can't get anything done. So I think regardless, the Bears are going to be really struggling to force any sacks, to get any takeaways. So to me, 49ers defense is probably the way to go. Mitch, Kirk Cousins or Taylor Heinicke? Good to see you, Mitch. Yeah, Heinicke against Carolina. Carolina, this is a tough one. You know, when I look at the Panthers are what we call a run funnel defense. They're in the top of the league against the pass, but they're below average against the run. So I don't know that Taylor Heinicke is the They got a deep group of corners, and that's even with the rookie getting, on the IR. They've got like 3-4 corners who can play, and they can bring some pressure with Brian Burns in the group. So to me, Kirk Cousins is at home, plays better in the dome. It's not a great matchup, but I think Kirk Cousins has a little better of a floor, and I believe he definitely has a better ceiling if this game kind of goes off script a bit. So I'm going to say Cousins because I just don't like the Carolina matchup for Heinicke. This is a bad one for him. All right, I'll come back to Insta in a minute. Robert, good to see you, man. Need a running back and a receiver, half PPR. J-Rob, Ingram, Mike Williams, or Mooney. Okay, so Ingram has a not so great matchup because there are 3 offensive linemen out for the Saints. Left tackle, right tackle, and then Andres Pete, I believe, is a left guard. So they're without their 3 best linemen, in my opinion. And that's going to be very, very problematic for them against a Philly defense that is very good against the run and the pass. They're not elite, but they're very good. That's a bad matchup for him. Robinson's not 100% yet, playing a 49ers defense top 7 against the run. Now, they'll give up very little against in the past, too. They're top 4 against receiving backs. So Robinson doesn't have a good matchup. Mike Williams, you hear me complain. They're not throwing downfield. It's a big fundamental problem that they changed in the offense at the beginning of the season. But I still think that's at Mike Williams to get some targets. And with the 3 Steelers injuries, Hayden, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and TJ Watt, I do think this could be a game. At least he gets enough going to make you happy. And then Mooney, I don't personally think, I could be wrong. I don't think they're gonna shadow at Marlon Humphrey and say, you know what? This is the key to stopping the Bears. I think they're going to play their sides, and I think Mooney's going to get his opportunities, and I do think this is a good game for Mooney. So I'm going to go with you need one running back. So I'm going to go with Williams at receiver, and then of the 2 running backs, since Ingram, to me, is not as a shell of what he was, and Robinson at least has two-way ability in a tough matchup, give me Robinson in the tough matchup because he'll see more targets than Ingram, and then Mike Williams. That's the way we'll go with that. Shane, before I get your question, we're going to Insta here. Kabroom, Browns defense or Bills defense. So I don't know how many takeaways the Bills are going to generate here because I think they're going to try to establish Jonathan Taylor, and I know they've been great against the run and the pass, but I think that they could manage Wentz enough here. And whereas the Browns defense, they're playing Detroit. They're playing a backup quarterback. That pass rush is nasty. I got to go with the Browns here because I think they have a better chance of those sacks leading to a fumble 6, a pick 6. I think the probability is a bit better there. So that's where I'm looking there. All right, Shane. Freeman, Daryl Williams, Jordan Howard, or AP this week and going forward. So Jordan Howard gets a little bit of a ding with Miles Sanders back. I think Howard still gets some goal line look, but I think Howard's going to lose a lot of those extra carries he was getting. He was getting like double-digit carries. I think his carries go to like 5 or 6 now, and I think that's going to be problematic. He's going to be TD or bust. AP along the line, same lines. To me, he's washed. He can run at the goal line, so he'll get the occasional touchdown. Daryl Williams, he functioned really well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back. He was going 6.5 yards a carry in his last 2 full games before. Now Williams will be sprinkled in. I think Williams is going to see more snap share in the receiving game, though. So to me, that gives him long-term value a little better than Howard and AP. Freeman, because Latavius Murray is back and the coaching staff seems to trust Murray a bit more. You're talking about a low-volume running back game. It's a great running game because Lamar Jackson's in there. But I think when the split with he and Latavius Murray, that's problematic. So I'm going to say for this week, I still think that Williams is going to be involved enough as a receiver where I think he's a good play this week. Down the stretch, he's the best play of them all, I think, because he will still have value. I think Andy Reid did find a good role for him in the pass-catching game and hurry-up offense, which they run a lot because their defense is so bad. And that's the way I'll go there. If you have any gut feel on those for today, though, that'd be because Howard or AP are dependent on the touchdown. If you feel strongly about that, that'd be the way to go. Freeman's not going to benefit from Lamar Jackson being out because by missing the threat that Jackson brings, he frees his linebackers just by his presence. Well, that's not going to be there. Even though Huntley can run, teams aren't going to be like, oh, my God, Tyler Huntley, what do we do? So I think that's the problem there. Let's see, I'm caught up on Insta still, so let's keep going on here. Johnny, Cleveland minus 13.5. Yeah, you would think. And Tim Boyle at quarterback, not sure what we're getting there. Cleveland, Detroit plays hard every week. And they're the type of team, they'll mostly cover those spreads. And that's why it's tough to lay points with them. Cleveland could look past. You wouldn't think Cleveland would pass any game because they haven't been playing great, but they totally could look past Detroit. It's hard to get up to face a team with a backup quarterback. And to me, from the psychological standpoint, that makes it tough to think that Cleveland doesn't figure out a way to backdoor cover this thing. So that'd be problematic to me. Shane, Simeon, Baker, Mayfield, or Cam. Cam's going to run. And that gives him the advantage on those two to start. And I think that's where we begin and we end with this. And now Cam, and I know he hasn't had a lot of practice time. He has the best weapons of his career. He has Christian McCaffrey and he has DJ Moore. I know he had Steve Smith back in the day, but I think they overlapped. But yeah, these are the best weapons he's had. He has a good coaching staff. They're very good at utilizing offensive play design. And so I think Cam's in a great spot. And I love his matchup against Washington. Washington without Chase Young, Montez Sweat, both out. So they're no pass rush and their worst coverage team in the league. So, yeah, I think Cam's going to ball out this week. I think it's a great game for him. Kabroom. Oh, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for that nice comment. Very much appreciated. It means a lot to me. Johnny Football. Bears at -3 on Thanksgiving is a steal. Just remember, no Khalil Mack, no Akeem Hicks. But you're right. It looks like a great play for them. And the Bears should be just fine here. And Justin Fields had a big game, I think, when he played Detroit earlier in the season. Again, I think he run for 100. He had a big game. That's all I'll say. I remember that. So, yeah, and Boyle's not a good quarterback. So you're right. You know what? That line could change throughout the week. So, yeah, if I were to bet that one, I would bet it now because my guess is that line isn't getting any better as we go. So, yeah. Laura and Jim Cooperman, PPR, need one. Visca or Pascal? Yeah, you're in a tough one. I get you there. They're playing San Francisco. Visca is. They're just not utilizing him well. They're giving Agnew the routes that Chenault should have. Zach Pascal, he runs in the slot. That helps a little bit. But Buffalo is still number 3 against slot receivers. They're number 2 against wide receivers 2, number 4 against wide receiver 1s. Pascal has a chance to score a short touchdown. That's what I've got there. They're both very, very low floor plays. We understand that, and that's why you're asking me this question. It's a great question. So I'm just going to say Zach Pascal probably sees a couple more targets. The winner of this one could post 28 yards. That could be the winner. And so I'm going to go with Pascal just because Chenault is not used well and the defense is not a good setup for him. And then Pollard or AP, I got to go with Pollard. Pollard has a lot of juice and, he'll be used occasionally in the red zone as well, not nearly as much as Zeke. So I think Pollard's a good play. AP is going to be touchdown or bust. If you have a real strong feeling AP scores a touchdown, great. I don't think he has much left in the tank otherwise. Flex, Schultz, Gronk, Jordan Howard. So, you know what? Dalton Schultz predictably last week fell back when Dallas had all 3 of their receivers. And I thought his targets would go down. They did. He had 1 or 2 targets. But now Cooper's out. So I think Schultz walks right back into that role where he's heavily involved. And he was like 60 to 80 yards a week. And Gronk, I think they rested him because of a rest day. And that maybe, but it's a Monday night game. And that's why I get nervous. If there's definitive word that Gronk is playing before you set your lineup before the late afternoon Dallas game, you go with Gronk because Gronk has been playing at an elite level this year. And if they play him, that means he's fully recovered and ready to go. They won't put him out there now and risk another setback. And but otherwise, Schultz is a very strong play, nothing to worry about. But again, just make sure you have definitive word that Gronk is playing because you don't want to be a late minute scratch, and then you take a 0. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Caught up on Insta. Robert, full PPR, Pittman or Thielen. I don't like Pittman on Latavius White. I think it's a really bad matchup for him. Pittman's a wonderful player. I love him a lot as a player. I just think this matchup is really tough for him. I don't think he's going to give Carson Wentz throwing windows that are going to be useful enough to get him open enough. Whereas Adam Thielen's been at least 40 yards in most of his games. He had that 2 catch for 6, but he scored in that one. He scores in more than half of his games. I think Thielen in this matchup is just safer. And, Green Bay has a great pass defense. They're like 8th in pass defense, but Thielen runs those drag routes and he's used in the red zone. And so I think his role fits in well in this type of matchup. And I think he could come up fine. They both have a lot of downside this week, but I think there are more scenarios played out where Thielen does a little better than Pittman just because his matchup is so brutal for him. Alfonso, Ayuk, right? You know what? I'm back on Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is running over 90% snap share. His route participation is very high. He had 7 and 8 targets before last week. And last week, the targets were low only because of the game script and the way things went. But otherwise, I think he's back to being an integral part of that offense. And against Jacksonville's very good against the run. They're not as good against the pass. No, they're terrible against the pass. They're what we call a pass funnel defense. They're second worst against the pass, but they're good against the run. So I think the 49ers throw a little bit more this week, and I think Ayuk could get his targets. A couple weeks ago, he had a touchdown knocked away on a great defensive play. They're using him now. So to me, it's going to be Brandon Ayuk, and I'm not Agnew broke that crazy 79-yard run last week, but they're throwing him the ball quite a bit, but Ayuk just has so many more outs to get it done than Agnew does. That's the route I'll go on at. Johnny, Ravens had a non-COVID virus go through their organization last week. Wow. Bateman, Bradley Bozeman. Wow. So Sheffield, so that's crazy. I wonder what it was. I hope it's like the roto virus or something like that. I heard that'd be like nasty where, you get something like that. Oh, poor guys. Feel terrible for them as people. Anytime you go through a sickness, not so good, right? Let's have more comments here. Oh, good. We got more. I thought I ran out for a minute. Let me see. Where are we? Oh, here we go. All right. Boogie B, Bateman, Corey Davis, Waddle, or Wilson. Oh, man. Jeff Wilson. I'm assuming you're Jeff Wilson here. Sit to. Corey Davis is facing those outside corners for Miami. Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. Don't like that matchup. I don't think Flacco is going to challenge him there. Bateman, of course, we love his talent, but I don't like him at a backup quarterback. I think he has a fair floor. But Jalen Waddle has seen a lot of targets, and the Jets are horrific against wide receivers, so I love him. And Jeff Wilson, I said a minute ago, Jacksonville's a good run defense, but it's the Shanahan 49er scheme, and they get it done, and they will get it done. Wilson has no competition, really, so your 14, 18 carries pretty safe here. So for me, it's Waddle and Wilson. That would be pretty solid move on my side here. Otis. All right, what do you got here? You have Miles Sanders and need to move him off injured reserve spot. You don't know who dropped between Gibson, Javonte, and Eli. Oh, man, that's a rough problem to have. Yeah, very tough problem to have here. You know what? Look, Javonte could move into a prominent role as the season goes on. I get it. But it's Gibson, to me, they gave him all that work last week. So for me, they're past the shin injury. They're going to manage him in practice. To me, they give him that much work. They must feel he's good to go. That's what I have to go on. And I still believe Gibson has to have more breakout. If he's feeling better, he's still a dynamically talented player. Eli Mitchell has shown us 100-yard games frequently. He broke the finger. That should be fine next week. They for a while, they were hoping to have him this week. So that should be fine. He is their lead guy. And so to me, I love Javonte Williams, but that you got to push him out, I think, for Sanders. You could consider dropping Sanders. You could consider saying bye-bye to Sanders. Now, I know it's a different Philly team, They were pass first team early in the year, and Sanders struggled because now they're more of a run first team, which does benefit him. And theoretically, he should have a lead role, but Howard's probably not going away at the goal line. And how much is Jalen Hurts going to pass the ball? That's to the running backs. It's another thing we're concerned about. So I would drop Devonte. But if you really have a great feeling that Devontae's going to at some point take over, which would be speculative, if you believe that, then you would drop Sanders. But I will say drop Devontae. But obviously you have a tough choice, which is why you asked me that question. Johnny, thank you. Lamar out. Tyler Huntley will be the starter. Guy, I'm sorry, I don't know which one it is. Herbert or Burrow? Yeah, it's a tough one here. So Burrow's dilemma is this. They face the Raiders. The Raiders have the number one pressure rate, and they do it without blitzing. Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue have been playing off the charts all season. And so what's going to happen is Burrow is worst when he's under pressure, especially non-blitz pressure, because the defense can legitimately have coverage in the back. Now, Burrow's still going to have some level of success because you got T. Higgins running in the middle of the field. Jamar Chase, I don't know how much downfield stuff gets going with that pass rush, but he's still got that. He's got Tyler Boyd. So I think Burrow's going to get you a couple of touchdowns pretty solidly. Now, Justin Herbert, what I like here is the injuries to the Steelers are huge. No TJ Watt, no Minkah Fitzpatrick being a robber at safety. There's no Joe Hayden at corner. So to me, those injuries are significant, and I still believe Pittsburgh will be nasty against the run. Therefore, Herbert's going to have to throw. So I think Herbert is the play I would make here. Burrow has a safer floor. Herbert has a fair floor, but he has a better ceiling in this matchup because of those Pittsburgh injuries, which I really think that hopefully their coaches decide to take advantage of. That's what we're banking on here. It's a great question. All right, John, McLaurin or Mike Williams? So betting against Terry McLaurin is tough, and we know he's had some down games this year. We know he has Taylor Heineke. We definitely don't like his matchup because really Carolina is very deep at corner, and that's what Horn on injured reserve. They've been phenomenal. They have depth at corner. But yet Terry McLaurin's going to see his targets, and there's going to be some pressure there. Mike Williams, they haven't used him well. That's the biggest problem. They used him downfield early in the year, and all of a sudden they changed their offense back to that, let's run through a slot receiver, and let's see how that works. Well, it hasn't worked, and it's not going to work. So Joe Lombardi, beautiful move. But until then, right now, McLaurin has a more diverse role in the offense. And I am going to say for this, so I think McLaurin is a safer floor, but I think Williams has a greater ceiling. If they decide to open it up because of the injuries in Pittsburgh, again, Hayden's out, Fitzpatrick's out, TJ Watt's out, that gives Williams some real ceiling if they choose to break the stupid mold on offense they're running. So McLaurin's your safe play. If you want to bank your 5 to 9 points, go there. But if you need to risk a low score for a potential 15 to 20 point game, then I think Mike Williams is your guy there. It's a good question. They all are. All right, guy, Bucks or the Panthers? If you mean for fantasy defenses, Panthers are not a bad play this week. They are because they'll be able to blitz Heineke. The Bucks, you know what? Surprisingly, they're only like 28th or 25th in pressure rate. Their pressure rates, you think it's right, you would think no way, and they can't cover, and they're at home. But overall, they're just not playing at that level right now. So to me, it'd be the Panthers. If you're talking about who's going to, and I think otherwise who's going to win their game, then it'd be the Bucks. But I think you mean defensive special teams there. All right, Shane, how much does Freeman and Latavius Murray value go up with Tyler? They both go down because see. That Baltimore rushing attack is predicated upon the dynamism of Lamar Jackson because safeties have to freeze every time he moves because they don't know what Lamar is going to do. Therefore, 2 washed up backs like Murray and Freeman are able to have space to run because you have frozen linebackers and a good blocking scheme you can take advantage of. Now, the Bears linebackers, they're going to be able to play a lot differently with no Lamar Jackson on the field. And so they both see split work. I don't know how well they're going to move the ball here. I think the Bears are in a good spot here. And I know the Bears are without Akeem Hicks, and they're without Khalil Mack. That hurts their pass defense more than their run defense to me. Now, Hicks is very good in the run game as well. He definitely sets the edge well. But I think overall, this hurts Baltimore significantly. So I think their values both actually go down because not having Lamar, that is the catalyst of that rushing attack. It's a great question. James, are we starting? You know what? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he was 6.5 yards a carry in his last 2 full games before he got hurt. Kansas City's the second best run blocking team in the league. And they face light boxes all the time because of their passing attack. And so, Andy Reid said he's starting. And to me, that's good enough. And it doesn't mean he's a ton of volume. His last 2 games, it was 14 and 17 carries. He had 100 and 102 yards. And he had a receiving touchdown in there as well. Mark Ingram, the Saints are down 3 linemen. They're 2 tackles and Andres Pete, the left guard. They're all out. So we're missing Ramczyk. We're missing Armstead. We're missing Pete. They're in trouble, because that offensive line is the centerpiece of their team. 60% of it, and the best 60% of it's out. And Ingram, to me, he's fortunate he's in that situation. So I'm not optimistic at all. So I'm saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and to me, it's not very close for those reasons, of course. All right, let's see who else here. Got more questions here. Let me see where we're at here. Here we go. Delroy, do you start Freeman? Well, again, I was just saying a moment ago, this is not a good matchup. The Bears are good at linebacker. And then Danny Trevathan is on the IR, but he was more of a rotational, and he was hurt earlier in the season. So they were used to playing him. At home, they play pretty good run defense. So I don't think Freeman does very much here. So I would not be excited. And I said this a minute ago, without Lamar, that really kills their running game, because that line is not what it was years ago. It's Lamar Jackson that makes that go. They've lost a lot of pieces. Fantasy football. I love that name. Pick 2, Gallup, Elijah Moore, or Mike Williams. So Elijah Moore has been really coming on. He's had a few good games. Now, one, I know the Indy busted coverage, and he had a good length touchdown because of that. But he is facing the strength of the Miami defense, which is their outside cornerbacks, Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. It's not, and Joe Flacco at quarterback. So that gets me a little bit nervous. You've heard me chirp, if you've been on the show for a while today, that Mike Williams is suffering from the coaching staff that decided to stop throwing downfield and decided to make their offense be slot receiver based, which has screwed their team over. That's their deal. But I think with the Steelers being without Minkah Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden, and TJ Watt, I think Mike Williams should have a bounce back here. Moore's matchup worries me, although I do think the rookie is really coming on. He's going to be a great play down the stretch. Michael Gallup, to me, is in. Kansas City struggles against wide receiver 2s, and that's his role. And Dak is going to be able to look his way this week with no Amari Cooper on the field, and then which should be a high-scoring game. So reluctantly, I said Elijah Moore, because I think that matchup just doesn't dictate well, whereas Mike Williams and the injuries for the Steelers, I think that works out well. See if I have any questions. No, Insta, I'm all caught up on questions. I'm at 11, so I'm going to kill the Insta feed, guys. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to close that one out. And give me a second on the other platforms. I will hang with you guys a little bit. Of course, if I figure out how to stop the show, it'd be great. There we go. And that. All right, good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to come back to you guys now. All right, so I'm back. I'm just YouTube and Twitter now. And I'll finish these questions, and I got to go eat some lunch. Muxie, who do you like more this week, James Robinson or Jeff Wilson? It's got to be Jeff Wilson. 49ers are not just top 7 against the run, but they're very good against receiving backs. They're number 4 against receiving backs. And so that's a double whammy against Robinson, because he does both. Whereas Jeff Wilson, he's facing a Jacksonville team that's really coming out against the run. They're actually top 7 against the run. But it's the Shanahan system. That Shanahan system beats good run defenses. And when they get the ball in the red zone, they don't mind going to Wilson. We've seen that in the past, and I think they will. So I'm going to give you this one. Let me give you this one. I think Robinson has a decent floor. I think Robinson can get you 8 points easier than Wilson can. But I think Wilson can get to 15 easier because of the potential to score and break off a bigger play. So Robinson, I think, has a higher floor. I think Wilson has a reasonable floor and a higher ceiling. I would advocate Wilson and I also think that the 49ers play with a lead, and Robinson not being able to catch passes, maybe against the 49ers coverage unit against running backs, that's phenomenal. So I think that's why I'm going with Jeff Wilson. Boogie B, Collins, Robinson, Wilson, Montgomery, sit 1. Ooh. Alex Collins has been very inefficient the last 3 weeks. And I just talked about James Robinson's mentioned, but Collins is not getting much done. He was out of the league for a while, and that's for a reason. And he's not a very good running back. And he has a lot of fire when he comes out of first, but we already see he's wearing down from that. And so in the matchup against Arizona, nasty. Not a good matchup at all. So I'm going to sit him of those 4 players. Bean Productions, pick 1. Jeff Wilson, Clyde Edwards, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Adrian Peterson. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was averaging 6.5 yards a carry in the last 2 full games he played. Kansas City's the second best run blocking offensive line in the league. Andy Reid said he's starting. I think Edwards-Helaire has the highest floor of these players. Sanders and Beasley, it's been a little up and down lately. And I do think the nature of playing Indy, I really feel like Stephon Diggs is going to be the guy that's going to be back at it again this week. Now, we know the Bills, any of them can go off at any time. It's really hard to call it right now, but I'm a little concerned about Josh Allen in this game. The Bills have feasted on bottom-feeding defenses, and I think this week Indy's zone is going to give him a little bit of trouble, and they're down 2 offensive linemen, too, on the right side, which is really going to hurt a bit. They didn't score a touchdown last time those 2 guys were out against Jacksonville. So I'm going to say Wilson is your ceiling guy. Wilson could score 2 touchdowns. But I think Wilson has a much lower floor than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that because Jacksonville's really good against the run. I love the Shanahan system. He should have success. I think Edwards-Helaire is your solid floor play, reasonable ceiling. If you really got to swing for the fence, then I think Wilson, because that multi-touchdown game is in play, especially when the 49ers like to run near the goal, and he is a very strong interior runner near the goal. So that's the way I would handicap that one. Len, all right, man. Oh, in the Stake League. You know what? So Cousins really, really boom bust. And there was somebody had a different question earlier with Cousins, and I went Cousins. But overall, the Green Bay matchup's not good. Green Bay plays a very good zone defense. And I know Justin Jefferson's going to get open, but Green Bay is what we call a run funnel defense. And Dalvin Cook, this is potentially a game where Dalvin Cook gets things going. Now, Aaron Rodgers isn't the same Aaron Rodgers as last year. He's not playing at that elite level. He has a toe injury. I think both teams could run the ball a lot. I think it's a way lower volume game than we'd like. Green Bay already runs the slowest pace of play in the league. So I think this is a very conducive game to the running attacks. I don't think we see a lot of offensive fireworks. Cam, to me, is in a great spot. I mean, and I know the coach, they're talking about, PJ Walker's going to see some snaps. Seriously, you're really going to take out Cam Newton for PJ Walker and think you're going to do better off on those plays? I don't see it. Cam's going to run. Cam has the best set of weapons he's ever had. CMC and DJ Moore is a legitimate superstar who's been in some bad situations. I think Cam's a great play this week. I think Cam has floor. Cam has ceiling. I love him in DFS this week. No, I think Cam's your play here because Cam has ceiling as well. And I think that what we saw in New England last year, he had a bad set of weapons. He had no chance to throw, but he was throwing well in the preseason. And I think when you're coming in with these targets, yes, he can throw the ball short and be real successful. So I don't think they need him to put the team on his shoulders, have a big fantasy day. I like him, Len. I like Cam there. Good luck. Laura and Jim Cooperman. PPR need Shenault Pascal. I think I answered that one. Maybe somebody else. Zach Pascal only because he has the more likely route to get 25 to 30 yards. They're not using Shenault well at all. Pascal sees on and off targets, but mostly off. I think Pascal could see a bit more work. It's a tough call. If you have a gut feel, go with it. Pollard or AP, you know what? Pollard's going to get your 8 to 11, 8 to 13 touches, and AP just doesn't have any juice right now. Now, if he gets a goal line touchdown, that's another story, but banking on that's a tough one. So I'm going to say Tony Pollard there. And then, let's see. And then you had Schultz, Gronk, Howard. Yeah, I think I answered this already, but I'm going to say, so Dalton Schultz, now that Amari Cooper's out, he's back to seeing target share, and he's a very strong play. If you get word that Gronk is 100% playing before that Schultz game kicks off, then you play Gronk. But if you don't get 100% word that he's definitely 100% playing, Dalton Schultz is a fine player. Not with Jordan Howard right now because I think against New Orleans, nasty defense, not much going on there. Jesse, please help. J-Rob, Saquon, CEH, Daryl Williams, Madison, Devin Singletary. Okay, so biggest problem with Saquon is he going to play? We expect he is, but we don't know. It's a Monday night game. That's horrific. But, honestly, what I might do is, if you could, I don't know if Booker's still on waivers in your league. If he was, I would almost drop Madison and pick up Booker and then have a default in that case because you want to play Saquon here. I know the Bucs are great against the run, but Saquon should catch the ball out of the backfield and be a good play this week. And I do expect him to play, but I really hate for you to get a 0 if he wasn't in there. Otherwise, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was getting 6.5 yards a carry in his last 2 full games before going down with the knee injury. Chiefs are the second best run blocking line in the league. Andy Reid said Edwards-Helaire would start, so I definitely put him in there. Daryl Williams would probably have an ancillary role. Reid said he'll have a role, but I think if you say Edwards-Helaire is going to start that game, we got to trust the coach on that one. And then So James Robinson doesn't have a good matchup. 49ers great against the run, great against receiving backs, but they should trail. He should get volume. And so I think that volume adds up to something. So I'm saying Saquon, J-Rob, and Edwards-Helaire. Now, if you can't get Booker to flip for Saquon, before the Monday night game, if you're worried about the injury, then I would almost say, and man, none of them have good matchups here. It would almost be Devin Singletary because he's getting some work. But I would much prefer the route of going Saquon, or if you could, like I said, Devontae Booker if he's on waivers. Good luck with that. All right, new comments. All right, let's see. Oh, man, I got a bunch of them. I guess we're going to overtime. That's fine. You guys need help, I'll help you. Fantasy football. Gallup, Mike Williams, and Elijah Moore, you need two. Elijah Moore's facing those two outside corners in Miami, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Wherever he goes, he's going to face one of those. Joe Flacco does not inspire a lot of confidence. He's going to get it done as a passer. Mike Williams has the advantage of being no Joe Hayden on the field, Minka Fitzpatrick, and no TJ Watt rushing the passer. So I think Mike Williams gets it done here. And Michael Gallup, Kansas City is weakest against wide receiver too. So I think that's the way we go. There you go, Shane. Roto baller for the win. Good luck, man. I appreciate your nice words, sir. Appreciate it. Eric Armstead or Daron Payne of last year? Good question. I'm not going to answer one right now. I'm tired, man. Vince Ferragamo or Bobby Douglas? Oh my gosh. Bobby Douglas is nuts, man. That dude could run. Give me Bobby Douglas. Len, Bateman or Tony, half point, Cam or Cousins? So I'm worried about Bateman because now we have no Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley's a quarterback. I think Bateman gets the 8 targets. I think he has to because they have nobody else to throw to at this point. Marquise Brown's out. Terrible tight end matchup. So Bateman has something going for him there. Now, Tony, here's the deal. Sterling Shepard's out. Tony had his 2 big games when he was running in the slot. Sterling Shepard plays the slot. He's out. Tony moves into the slot. I think that's a potential setup for a big game against the Bucs because I think that's where you can attack them better. You can attack them anywhere, but the slot's a really good spot. So I think here you go. Bateman's your floor play. If you want to get yourself, in halfway, you want to get yourself 7 points or so. I think Bateman's okay for that, and you can kind of bank that. I think if you need 15, 20, Bateman can't get you there, but I think Tony can. So I think your upside play is Tony, and I don't know how much downside Tony has. He has some because we've seen some bad performances, and I'm blaming it on him being on the outside and not the slot. So, again, Bateman, safety, Sam. But if you want to take that chance and have that bigger game, I think Tony's your call. And again, I'm going to go with Cam. I think that Cam's in a great spot here. I think Washington, they're without their 2 edge rushers. They lost Chase Young and Montez Sweat's on the IR, and they're terrible against the pass. Cam's going to be amped up back on the home field and start. Tua or Rodgers? Oh man, this is going to be a slow pace game, my guess is. And the Rodgers game, I think Green Bay's the slowest paced team in the league. They're going to run Dillon. I think that the Vikings are going to run Cook a lot. And Rodgers hasn't been great. Allen Lazard's a great blocking wide receiver. He's not going to be out there. Certainly Devontae will do some damage here. I think Rodgers is your floor play. I think Rodgers, he finds a way to get you 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think that happens. I do like Tua here. I think Tua has a chance to run with the ball. The Jets are horrible against the pass. And so I think Tua can compile here. But how much more upside does Tua really have than Rodgers? And that's the question. So ultimately, I think Rodgers, because of his safe floor, is your play. You're going to get your 2 touchdowns, your 235. Tua could implode, and that's a problem we have. The one thing that works against Tua is the Jets have an above average pressure rate, and the Dolphins have the worst offensive line in the league by far. And so that's the one thing that works against Tua here. I think Tua does have a spike game in his range of outcomes, which could blow away Rodgers. But I think 8 times out of 10, I think Rodgers' safety here is going to be the call to go with. It's a good question because it's a very reasonable one. Kareem, half PPR, Gaskin, Ingram, or Jeff Wilson. I've got to go Jeff Wilson here. 49ers, they have really nobody else. They're not going to use Trey Sermon. We know that already. And the zone running scheme, Wilson's very good in it. When they get in the red zone, they'll give him the ball. Ingram is down 3 offensive linemen, left tackle, right tackle, left guard, and they're three best linemen. And now that's a strength of their team. And now they're down those. And so Ingram's not going to see those running chasms. He had been seeing against his Philly defense is very good. Gaskin, he's had like 40 touches in the last few weeks. He's been like has it been a little more than 2 yards to carry? His efficiency is nowhere close to what it was last year. And I know he had the 10 catch, 2 touchdown game about a month ago, but he just hasn't been that guy. To me, it's Jeff Wilson. Drake, Mooney or Gibson, 1.5 PPR. Overall, I said earlier, I don't think Marlon Humphrey shadows Mooney. So there's that. And they might. I don't think they will. But I think that Baltimore, could pressure Fields enough. To make him uncomfortable. To me, they gave Gibson a lot of work last week. To me, that tells me coming out of the bye, they trust his shin. Now, I know the yards per carry were terrible for Gibson, but they played Tampa. You know, you're not running on Tampa, but he was very good. And I think Gibson coming into this game, Carolina's a great pass defense. They're below average against the run. To me, you got to go Gibson because I think there's a good Gibson matchup here. Scott, all right, man. Gallup or Crowder? So the place to attack Miami is in the middle. Their 2 outside corners are great. Crowder lives in the middle. I don't think Joe Flacco wants to get hit anymore, so I think throwing a Crowder is going to be a natural for him. I think Crowder has the higher floor here. I think Crowder should see 6 catches in his sleep. Michael Gallup, though, is a great matchup because Kansas City is weakest against wide receiver 2s. That's exactly what he qualifies as. They're tough in the slot with the Honey Badger running in there, and they take out wide receiver 1s fairly well, and that CD Lamb. Not that they'll take out CD Lamb. He's an elite player, but Gallup should get his today. And so I think Gallup is your upside play. But I think Crowder is, your safe 10 to 12 points. Gallup always has downside because he's been a volatile player. So I think you're going to go safety Crowder, upside, you're going to go Michael Gallup. I think Gallup does have a great spot here because, again, that's a place to attack them. This should be a shootout. Rubber, boobs, and liquor. Nice. I like that. Need to stream one. Lat Murray, AP, or Jamal Williams. I don't think Jamal Williams is 100% yet. He's playing, but he's been on the injury list and he's missed games. So I don't think he's fully back. I don't think we're going to see a lot in Cleveland. Cleveland could slow him down. If he's not 100%, Cleveland could slow him down. Latavius Murray, it hurts not having Lamar Jackson in because now the linebackers can free flow. They don't have to worry about freezing for Lamar, and that's going to hurt him a bit, and he's sharing. But AP worries me too because Foreman's in the mix. Now AP, if they get in the goal red area, he should be fine. Highest floor of these 3, though, is Latavius Murray. He should get you 35, 40 yards, highest floor. But I think AP has the highest ceiling because if they get the ball inside the 5, he could score. He could do it twice. He could score twice. But he's very risky too. Murray's safe but low ceiling. AP, terrible floor, but he could come through for you. So I would probably start Murray for the floor. That's what I'd probably look at there. Julia, good to see you. Shout out to you. Nice. Appreciate that. Yeah, Pittsburgh gets decimated. It's terrible. It'd be a fun game to watch. We can see some offense here. Once in a while, I want to see some offense. Johnny, of course, you're very welcome. All right, Presley, full PPR, pick 2, Jeff Wilson, Alex Collins, or Miles Sanders. Alex Collins' his efficiency has dropped in the last few games. He looks like he's a big dude. He's got all that hair going on. He runs hard, but you see over the few games he's wearing down. He's not he's like a small guy that, is like, behind the big hair, he's a small dude, and he's just getting worn down, I think. Jeff Wilson, the matchup's not great, but it's the 49ers running scheme, and they get it done, and they get in the red zone. We know he'll run there. And then Miles Sanders back in the saddle, supposed to start, and when Sanders left with injury, this is a pass-first team. They put in Hurts on the shotgun. Well, now they've changed completely. They're more of a run-based team. They use their line. It's a bad matchup. But Miles Sanders is a very good player. So I think even in a bad matchup, I think we take him over Alex Collins because he could break a long run. And that's not something we would make a stretch for. So it's a tough one on the second one, but I think Miles Sanders is a little bit of an edge there. Julia Green, yep, slowest paced. Yep. 32. Yeah, I'll take a break. I got a few more questions here, I think, though. Ross, Hawkinson, or Goddard and standard. Goddard has a horrible matchup. I love Dallas Goedert, but man, the Saints, they take away tight ends. They're the 4th best team against tight ends, and they have great safety play. Linebackers are active, so it's a real tough spot for him. TJ Hawkinson, you would think Tim Boyle is going to lean on him, and I don't think Cleveland is going to be well equipped enough they're middling against tight ends. So I think this is one where they're definitely going to be in good shape there. So I got to go with Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson should get quite a few targets here. It's a great question. Kevon, Jeff Wilson, or Bateman. Again, I worry with Tyler Huntley at quarterback. Bateman should get some targets here. Jeff Wilson's going to probably get you 14 to 20 carries and behind the Shanahan running system. If they get in the red zone, it's a good bet to score. It's close, but I think Wilson probably scores a touchdown. I even bet him as an anytime scorer on DraftKings. Parkour. You're welcome, Scott. Cedric Wilson or Marcus Johnson? Yeah, it's a tough one there. Marcus Johnson should, in theory, be safer. Dallas will go away from Cedric Wilson at times, and so he could disappear. Marcus Johnson, I think, is going to be a necessary part of this game. He's a big dude. He's been playing a few years. When they get him the ball, he can produce. It's not just this year, but we've seen 100-yard games out of him before. Not a ton, but we've seen him. And, he could fade away at any moment. I will say this. I think Marcus Johnson should be the floor player. He should get you 4 to 5 catches, I would think, and he could do something with them. Cedric Wilson, though, does have some real upside. I know he's going to see a lot of the honey badger when he's in the middle, and that's not good, but Dallas is so multiple on offense, and they do so many creative things. I think that Wilson could be schemed open, and Wilson could get a big play, very versatile player. So I think Marcus Johnson's your safe bet. If you want to get the safe 8 or so points with a little bit more upside, yes. I think if you want to risk a little floor, I think Cedric Wilson could come through with, a 20-point game here, but that would be a stretch. So I think, again, safety is Johnson. You want to risk it, then I think Wilson is your risk play. Russ still on Hawkinson here. Goddard's matchup is just absolutely horrible. Hawkinson has a middling matchup, and I think Tim Boyle definitely gets him the ball because he's going to have to, and he's a nice available open target in the middle of the field, especially to mitigate some pass rush. Julia Lamar is out. I know. I'm going to try to get to it. I hope I can before kickoff. I know. I got to eat too. Julia, if you can change me. Let's probably throw McLaurin in there, I guess. I'm sure there's no quarterbacks on the waiver wire. There never are. Right. Yeah, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. All right, Bo. Terry or Devonte Smith? Terry McLaurin, I assume you mean here. I got to go Terry McLaurin. Devonte Smith I'm worried about because he faces Marshawn Lattimore, one of the best physical athletic cornerbacks in the league. And I've always worried when Devonte Smith gets beat up at the line of scrimmage. I believe he's too small to be able to overcome that. Now, can he? Maybe. I'm not betting against Lattimore here. I think Lattimore has his way with the young player. And Terry McLaurin doesn't have a great matchup either because Carolina is one of the best defenses in the league against receivers. But Terry McLaurin can win in a lot of ways. And that's what I think is different here. And I think they're still going to throw him the ball. And he could score in the red zone too. So to me, it's Terry McLaurin. I'm going to bet on the established superstar over the up-and-coming one who has, in my opinion, a very negative matchup. And Bean Productions, Bateman, Sanders, or Beasley. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. So Bateman should see about 8 targets. That's what he's been seeing. It's Huntley, so I don't think they're like high leverage targets. I don't know how often they get in the red zone. As we look at that Buffalo and Indianapolis game, Buffalo is top 12 against wide receiver twos. They're top 7 against slot. Sanders has a marginally better matchup. Sanders is a big play guy. Indy is very good about keeping big plays in front of them, though. But I think ultimately they're going to have to score some points. And I'm going to give Sanders a slight edge over Bateman. I don't like the slot matchup against Indy very much. And I think the quarterback downgrade for Bateman is problematic. Scott, I don't think Colt McCoy is making good use of A.J. Green. I think the overall matchup with the Seahawks is good, but the Seahawks are – so A.J. Green will be the wide receiver 1 today, and Seattle is top 7 against wide receiver 1s. So in theory, that's not a good matchup. I think Christian Kirk has a matchup because he'll be like considered the wide receiver 2. I think he'll play a lot on the outside today. I think they'll move Rondale more into the slot some, and they're like bottom of the barrel, bottom 5 or 7 against wide receiver 2s. So AJ Green, yes, he can get something going, but again, Seattle does well against wide receiver 1s, and AJ Green's not at the point of his career where he can win that way anymore. So I think that's the problematic situation here. All right, everybody. Been battling a cold all week. Not feeling great, but I'm glad I was able to do some overtime for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Good luck in all your matchups today, and I'll be back next week. Thanksgiving. I'll try to do something before Thanksgiving. Three big games coming up. See if we can do something on Wednesday maybe and get everybody set for those 3 big games. It's a lot of players for fantasy. Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you greatly.